Sarah Snook stars in the new Netflix horror thriller Run Rabbit Run, but is it any good? I liked the trailer of this film. I thought it had potential, but I think in the execution of this concept, I think it falls short. There are a lot of deadpans where you can see Sarah Snook's physical acting. I think that was there. She does a lot to maximize the role. I think for me, the issue was in the writing. I think I would have preferred a different direction of the story because this story is very reminiscent of The Sixth Sense and of What Lies Beneath. Both films I like. In execution, those films really deliver jump scares and the intensity of the horror that this film lacks. Now, this film does have a jump scare or two in the final act. They're not very scary though. The dynamic between the mother and daughter in this film wasn't strong either because Sarah Snook plays Sarah. She's a fertility doctor who's going through somewhat of a midlife crisis. She just lost her dad, who she was really connected to, very close to. She went through a divorce. Her ex-husband is moving on, starting a family with his new wife, a younger woman, and her mother is suffering through dementia. And she has she's, I'll say, estranged from her mother somewhat, and doesn't really want to visit. Her mom's never met her 7-year-old daughter, but her daughter believes that she is the reincarnation of her sister, of her mom's sister, her aunt, who she's never met. So here's what I mean by I think it lacks in execution because I think the believability of this wasn't effective as, let's say, The Sixth Sense, because in that movie, he told things that he otherwise wouldn't know. For some reason, they didn't write that here. Lily Latour plays Mia, who believes she is the reincarnation of her mom's sister, who she's never met. But she doesn't give any serious indication of being the incarnation of her aunt. There's this rabbit that she finds and that she wants to keep. And for some reason, the rabbit is supposed to signify the death of her sister and what happened during the death. And so we follow this journey, this story, as it unfolds. We're trying to piece together the mystery behind her sister's death, but it's not written where we can follow any clues, and it takes about 25 minutes to really even get going. There seems to be nothing really happening significant because they don't give us any clues as to what's unfolding. What was effective about What Lies Beneath in this similar situation is this voice from the grave. We had a lot of clues that helped in the mystery as the story was unfolding for the main character, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. We were clued into it, and I think the audience, the viewer, is so disconnected into what's happening for too long that it seemed to be too boring to follow. I lost interest in the story because it wasn't inclusive to me. They weren't cluing me into anything other than the daughter acting out for a reason we don't know. And so in that way, I don't think that they were mindful of the audience watching. And this is a horror film. This is a thriller film. We need some clues so that we can be, and we need to know who we're rooting for. And the way the dynamic is between Mia and her mom Sarah is that they would have this big fight or this big falling out. In the very next scene, it's as if none of that ever happened. And so that was a very strange dynamic. I think this should have been more like the others. that's a whole nother story, but that's a story that I would have preferred, where the missing daughter, Sarah's sister, if she would have played a more prominent role other than being this figure we've never met until maybe the third act. I think if she played a more prominent role, or if these two were actually dead, and I won't spoil the ending, if these two were actually dead, I think it would have been better. I don't know. This story just didn't, the concept I think just failed in execution because it doesn't know what story it wants to tell. Should we have learned more about the dead aunt a little earlier? Okay, so Mia meets her grandmother for the first time in the nursing home. She has dementia, but when she first meets her granddaughter, she thinks it's her daughter Alice. So she calls her Alice. And Mia holds on to that, believing that she's Alice. But what Mia is actually doing is trying to pull out of her mother the emotion necessary so that she can feel some kind of remorse for whatever happened to her sister. By the time that's revealed, it's too late for the viewer because we'll lose interest. We don't have any concept, any idea of what is going on with the story for too long. I think it was the writing. I want to say that Dana Reed did a decent job directing it. She is a very active TV director who's directed episodes of The Handmaid's Tale and so forth. I like how it looked too. It's gritty in a way and dark in a way, and the music seems to work for what's going on, but I just think in story execution, it lacks. I think the performances, though they were challenged in telling this story, I think the performances were decent. At any rate, Run, Rabbit, Run is currently streaming on Netflix.